Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a foundational concept: how money, goods, and services continuously cycle through our world like an incredibly well-oiled engine. We're going to break down the mechanics of the circular flow of income model to trace exactly how your everyday spending scales all the way up into the massive global financial system.
We'll be taking a building block approach for this. We'll start with the core economic loop and the two-sector economy. Then we'll enter the government, go global, explore leakages and injections, and finally look at achieving equilibrium. Basically, we're just going to systematically add layers until we construct a complete, modern global economy.
But before we build our engine, we really need to understand the fundamental law of motion that drives the whole thing. This single concept is the beating heart of macroeconomics. One person's expenditure becomes another person's income. I know, it sounds super simple, but it is incredibly profound. Every single dollar you spend on a haircut, a new smartphone, or just your morning coffee instantly becomes revenue for a business. That business then turns around and uses that revenue to pay wages to their employees, who then go out and spend that exact same money. It's a continuous, unbroken loop.
Okay, parts 1 and 2, the core economic loop and the two-sector economy. To see exactly how this loop works, let's strip away all the complexity of the modern world for a second. We're starting with a simple closed economy consisting of just two primary cylinders: households and firms. No government, no foreign trade, just us and the businesses. Now, in this two-sector model, you might naturally think the firms hold all the power, right? But households are actually the foundational owners of everything. Households own all the factors of production. That means we own the land, provide the labor, hold the capital, and offer the enterprise. We provide all these vital resources to the firms. And in return, the firms compensate us. They pay out factor incomes, rent for the land, wages for our labor, interest for the capital, and profit for the enterprise. Notice how this interaction actually splits into two completely distinct, simultaneous circuits. First, you have the real flow. This is the physical stuff. Households supply actual labor and tangible resources to the firms, and the firms produce and supply physical goods and services back to the households. But running perfectly parallel to that is the money flow. This is the cash. Firms pay wages and rent to the households, and households turn right around and spend that exact money, their consumption expenditure, to buy the goods from the firms. So physical goods flow one way, and money flows the exact opposite way. But let's be real for a second. People don't spend every single penny they earn. Our engine has a slight leak. Households naturally save a portion of their income. We call this savings, represented by the letter S. And because this money isn't being spent on goods right away, it's considered a leakage from our circular flow. If money keeps leaking out, the engine slows down, right? So to keep things running, we need an injection. That injection comes in the form of investment, or I, from firms. Firms invest by spending on things like capital goods, buildings, and machinery. For this basic two-sector economy to stay totally stable, savings must perfectly equal investment. S equals I.
Moving right along to Section 3, enter the government. Now that we've got the base mechanics of households and firms down, let's upgrade our model by adding a third cylinder.
Introducing the government instantly changes the pressure dynamics of our economic plumbing. On one hand, the government acts as a brand new leakage. They collect taxes, represented by T, from both households and firms. We're talking income tax, property tax, corporate tax, the whole shebang. By taking this money, taxes naturally reduce the disposable income we have for everyday consumption. But the government doesn't just shove that money under a mattress. They turn around and act as a massive injection into the economy through government expenditure, or G. They pump that money right back in by funding public health care, building roads and infrastructure, paying government employees, and providing transfer payments.
So, to keep this new three-part balancing act perfectly stable, or in equilibrium, we simply add our new variables to the scale. The total leakages, which are now the savings of the households plus the taxes collected by the government, must perfectly equal the total injections, which are the investments made by firms plus government expenditure. This gives us our three-sector equilibrium equation: S plus T equals I plus G. Okay, part 4, going global. Because, let's face it, we don't live in a closed-off bubble. To make this model truly reflect the real world, we need to turbocharge our engine with a fourth and final sector, the rest of the world. This is it, the complete four-sector open economy. We still have households and firms at the center interacting with the government, but now we've introduced the foreign sector. This weaves international trade and global financial transactions directly into our economic plumbing. Capital is now continuously moving in and out to the rest of the world, which perfectly represents how universally interconnected economies are today. By opening our borders, we introduce two incredibly powerful new forces. First, exports, represented by X. Think of Indian software services being sold abroad or pharmaceutical products shipped to foreign markets. When people in other countries buy these domestic goods, fresh money flows straight into our domestic system. So exports are a massive injection. On the flip side, we have imports, represented by M. This happens when we buy foreign electronics, imported machinery, or foreign crude oil. When we buy these things, our money flows out of our domestic economy and into foreign markets. Therefore, imports act as our final leakage. Part 5, Leakages and Injections. Let's take a moment to formally categorize these opposing forces that are constantly dictating the momentum in our economic plumbing. First up, the leakages. As we've seen, leakages are any withdrawals from the income stream that reduce overall domestic spending. They are literally pulling money out of the immediate, everyday economic cycle. In our fully built four-sector model, our three big leakages are savings, taxes, and imports. It's crucial to understand that if these leakages get too high without being offset, national income is going to fall. Conversely, let's look at the injections. Injections are additions of money that pump fresh capital back into the income stream, increasing domestic spending and giving the economy a boost. Our three injections are investment by firms, government expenditure on public projects, and exports sold to foreign nations. And just as you'd guess, if injections exceed leakages, the national income tends to rise. Finally, Part 6, Achieving Economic Equilibrium. So how does this massive, incredibly complex four-sector machine run smoothly without stalling out from too many leakages or overheating from too many injections?
Well, it all comes down to this final master equation. The economy remains in balance, or macroeconomic equilibrium, only when the total sum of all those leakages perfectly matches the total sum of all the injections. Savings plus taxes plus imports must equal investment plus government expenditure plus exports. S plus T plus M equals I plus G plus X. If this equation is ever out of whack, the economy will naturally adjust. It will expand or contract until equilibrium is finally restored.
If we quickly retrace our steps, you can see exactly how we built this bad boy. In a simple two-sector economy, S equals I. We add the government, and we get a three-sector equilibrium of S plus T equals I plus G. And finally, in the full four-sector open economy, we add global trade with imports and exports to reach our final equation. It's a really beautiful illustration of how adding new sectors introduces new leakages and injections to the grand balancing act of our national income. So what does this all mean for you? Why does it matter? Well, because you are literally inside this loop right now. The next time you get a paycheck from a firm, or pay your taxes, or buy an imported cup of coffee, picture this cycle. Ask yourself, where is that money flowing next? Because whether you're saving, spending, or paying taxes, you are an active, essential gear in this incredible macroeconomic engine. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning where the flow goes next.